Ideal's a definition that is different with a lot of people. To me, ideal is just draw nice, pretty districts and keep as much of the towns together as you can. To some people, ideal is something else.
How tough is it? You'd indicated it takes 2 to 3 weeks to come up with a map. Compared to like 20, 30 years ago, how much has the process changed? Has it become more complicated?
It is complex.
Well, it's a catch-22. Technology changed, and you'd think that things would get faster, but with that change in technology, the data sets have grown drastically. In the 70s, you basically had population, and you guesstimated on ethnicity. Now we have data sets that our data set takes over a terabyte. So you have to take more into consideration. The courts are taking more into consideration. In 1970, they had colored pencils, and they were drawn on a wall. Some places used strings and tacks to draw their districts. So you can go faster now, but you got to do 10 times more.
Could you maybe speak about the complexities you're talking about of drawing? You have different ethnicities that you have to take into consideration, populations, voting age. Could you maybe just go over a real brief summary of how those complexities play into how you draw
Why
them
you can't
out?
just draw a line? Why you look at all those numbers?
Well, and I'm not a lawyer, so I can't talk to Section 2, but my understanding is that we are not a Section 5 state. A Section 5 state is a state where the federal government has stepped in and said, you have to draw so many African American districts and so many Hispanic districts, and you can't do what's called retrogression. I can't, if the African Americans had 10 seats and the Hispanics had 5, I cannot go down to 9. Obviously, unless all that population is moved out of the state and you can't physically come up with 10, we are not a Section 5 state. We are what's called a Section 2 state. And I believe the Section 2, like I said, I'm not a lawyer, is a federal guideline of what you should do. So we, on the House and the Senate Republican side, we just treat it as something we do not want to retrogress, and we do want to maximize minority representation. And to us, that means putting up those thematics and making sure we keep at least the same amount of African American seats and raise the Hispanic representation up a little so it's more in line with their population.
You indicated that some of the districts, especially around the Chicago area, have kind of weird shapes. And can you talk about that a little bit?
Well, like I said, when I was trying to show you guys earlier, a lot of times I'm going to talk more about the African Americans in the city because they are more condensed into a specific area. If I come south of the city and east of the city, there are a lot of African Americans living in a small condensed area, and a lot of times it's not out but up. In apartment buildings. So for me to get to, I don't want to pack them in at 90% African American population. So I have to get to some Hispanics or some white people so I can lower that African American percentage down and keep some more African American population to put in another district. And the only way I can do that is to, you'll see some districts that literally are 4 blocks wide for miles. One of them goes from the south side of Chicago almost up to Lincoln Park. And it follows 4 blocks along the lakefront. And you got to do that sometimes so you can move the population around.
Explain how Illinois could be misrepresented if drawn from a political motivation. How it could be in terms of, you were saying some of the numbers, what could be, was it 53-37?
If either side were to go above and beyond and just do a straight political gerrymander, aside from one party suffering, it would be the Hispanics and the African Americans that would suffer.
You said that certain groups could
or like you'd encourage certain groups to draw their own maps or draw their own districts, how logistically would you then put that all into one map that would be cohesive? You understand what I'm saying?
Oh, yeah, well, it's like anything else. It's kind of like the chaos theory, you know, if you give them all a chance at drawing what they want, then you just put it all on a board and say, okay, we can do this, we can fit this in, and at some point it becomes a trade-off, or we can do this, but we can't do this, or we can take both of your things, put them together, but each one of you are going to have to give a little. And a lot of times in 2000, we invited, and I believe the Democrats did too, a lot of these groups, because they couldn't afford the equipment then. We invited we had public drawing stations at the Thompson, and we had one in Springfield. So, and we actually gave them someone at the computer to do it for them, if they didn't know how to do it. So, and there's talk about doing that now.